Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Smart Indian Agriculture on the Federal.com. I am Vivian Fernandez. Should Nandini fear Amul? Nandini is the brand of KMF, the Karnataka Cooperative Milk Producers Federation, while Amul of the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation has pan-India recall. In April, Amul announced it would sell milk and milk products in Bengaluru. It has been doing so in Belagavi and Hubballi Dharwad since 2015. But the announcement created misgivings. Home Minister Amit Shah, who also heads the new Ministry of Cooperation, which was carved out of the Ministry of Agriculture in 2021, had spoken of joint operations between Nandini and Amul in December last year while inaugurating a KMF dairy in Mandya. The government has also introduced an amendment to the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act, which would make mergers between cooperatives easy. These would be under the control of the central government. Last October, news reports said that the Home Minister had said that 5 milk cooperatives would be merged with Amul, but this was denied by its then chairman. In the run-up to the Karnataka Assembly elections, opposition leaders stoked the controversy, invoking Kannadiga pride and making references to the merger of the native Vijaya Bank with Bank of Baroda. Should Nandini restrain competition? What's wrong with mergers if they create stronger cooperatives? To answer these questions, we have with us Professor M.S. Sriram, Chairman, Center for Public Policy at the Indian Institute of Management, Bengaluru. Professor Sriram, thank you very much for making the time and welcome to this program.
Thank you.
Now, competition has been good for the dairy industry. After the milk and milk products order was amended in 2002 and after it was repealed in 2006, milk production has more than doubled because of the entry and expansion of private dairies, which were earlier constrained by competition. So why not have a free-for-all in Karnataka as well?
Well, it is a fairly nuanced argument. We need to look at what it means. So let's break up the competition into two parts. One is the markets, the other is the procurement. I guess as far as the markets are concerned, there is absolutely no problem in having competition. In fact, while you in your intro said that Amul was selling milk in Belgavi, they've been selling products all over the country all these times. So that's never been a big deal. But procurement is a issue. And I'll tell you why the procurement is an issue. Because if you look at the value chain of dairying, you procure very small quantities of milk, half a liter, 1 liter, 2 liters, etc., and that is transported in a fairly limited range to a local dairy processing unit. So two large procurement players might not be very economical. That is the reason why competition at the procurement level could be sort of counterproductive. Now, as far as the private sector is concerned and how the private sector has come in, and if you look at the pricing of the private sector, they're actually in a completely different market segment. What the private sector usually does is procures the residual milk from outside of the cooperative sector. Because please remember, even in spite of all the competition, the market share of the cooperative sector has not gone down. It's actually held stable or increasing. So they do procure from outside. They have smaller operations. They're into niche products. And I think the only large private sector dairy which is cutting across these is possibly Hatson in Tamil Nadu, which is predominantly in Tamil Nadu. Otherwise, you'll see that these are really, really small players. Even though they expanded the market, they've sort of provided multiple options and provided competition. But the nature of competition between Amul and Nandini would be of a different magnitude altogether compared to what would be with Jersey or Heritage or any of these outfits.
Yeah, Professor, I understand what you are saying. But I mean, it takes time and it takes a lot of investment to create that infrastructure of milk collection points, the chilling units, and of course the refrigerated van network of refrigerated vans and so on and so forth. But shouldn't this worry Amul more than Nandini? Because Amul will have to create that infrastructure anew, while Nandini already has that infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it dispassionately from a pure economic sense, you would say, so what is the argument here? Somebody is coming into the market, procuring milk, it's their outlook. If they think they're willing to bleed for a while, they'll bleed for a while and go ahead. The way one looks at cooperatives is slightly different from the way one looks at normal competition. Essentially because of a fact that Amul is a federation, Amul brand or the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation is a federation of the farmers of Gujarat. They are a state cooperative, right? Procuring milk from Karnataka essentially means non-member business for them. So it violates basically the spirit of cooperatives because the farmers of Gujarat are now coming and competing with the farmers of Nandini for procurement. And this is basically about milk producers. It's not about milk marketing, right? Milk marketing is a value added for the producers. So that is one nuanced argument. Second is Amul has deep pockets now over a period of time. So therefore, it is possible for them to bleed. And if you look at the size of Amul versus size of any other federation, Amul can easily have the staying power to do that. And typically, what happens in cooperatives or when cooperatives are in the competitive market, I mean, when cooperatives are subject to competition from outside, the competition doesn't usually go to the core. It sort of chips away the periphery and encircles the growth prospects of a given federation and then starts eating into the core. So therefore, most likely it is likely that they will not even set up a processing plant in Karnataka, but pick up milk from Karnataka and process it in Chittor or some bordering areas where cooperative could be weaker. So that might be the modus operandi. So it's not necessary.
Do you have any examples of let's say Amul or some big cooperative plucking the low hanging fruit?
Well, it happened once in Chittor, and cooperatives, mind you, are very fragile institutions, very difficult to build and very easy to destroy. It happened once in Chittor, where a private sector dairy with a political connection came and sort of took over the complete milk procurement route of Vijaya Dairy, which was in Chittor. And it took them about a month and a half to just choke the dairy, essentially through higher upfront price payments and delay in choking up the working capital of the dairy, wherein the farmers had no choice but to move. So it's very, very, very fragile because this entire thing is, please remember that the cooperative relationship is not an emotional relationship and not even a financial relationship. It is a transactional relationship, right? And the members of the cooperative have no downsides if they switch. The only upside that they have is the year-end bonus. And if they don't see the worth in the year-end bonus, that's fine for them. So it's very easy to switch with the upfront price payment.
Yeah, it is true that the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation is a much larger entity. But Nandini is also the second largest in terms of procurement, though it's a smaller entity. Now, the point is that Nandini is supported by the state government, and it started with Yediyurappa in 2008, giving a subsidy of 2 rupees per liter of milk, which was doubled to 4 rupees by Siddaramaiah in 2013, and it is now 6 rupees a liter. So, can the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation, despite its deep pockets, compete with the Karnataka Treasury? Because this year, for example, the Karnataka government has provided in its budget an outlay of about 1,068 crores for price incentives. So isn't it a competition between Amul and the Karnataka Treasury?
It is. So therefore, the sort of alarm bells raised about Nandini losing procurement market share was possibly misplaced because the state government has been supporting Nandini. Please remember that this support, it's a very interesting way in which the support has been structured. It is structured as if it's a producer subsidy, but it's actually a consumer subsidy. It's turning out to be a consumer subsidy. It is a non-merit subsidy. It should not be there at all. So if you argue it on a pure economic sense, the subsidy should go. As the earlier it goes, the better it is, and the prices of milk for consumers in Karnataka should go up. But as of now, if you're looking at the war between Amul and Nandini, this one is a safety net that the Nandini farmers or the state government has provided. I completely agree with that.
Now, I would fear Amul, for example, if it was bringing milk from Gujarat and then selling it here, because Amul obviously has a surplus which it sends to various states. But given the logistical cost, is that economical?
No, that is the reason why liquid milk is a problem. That's the reason why products are not a problem. Because when you sell products, there is a shelf life, there is storage, there's a sort of a cold chain, and there is much more this thing. Whereas liquid milk is a completely turnover-based business. In fact, if you go back to the history of Operation Flood, Vivian, what happened during the early days of Operation Flood was when Dr. Kurian was still around, the broad agreement was that liquid milk would be locally sold and products is what cooperatives would compete with. And the belief then was that there is margins only in products. There's no margin in liquid milk. It's only after Dr. Kurian handed over the baton to Mr. Vyas and later to Sodhi that suddenly Amul discovered that there was a logic in high volume, quick turnover of milk, and Amul entered in a big way into liquid milk market. If you otherwise look at the 80s and the 90s, it would be difficult to get Amul milk in Anand. Amul liquid milk in Anand, and they were not branding liquid milk at all. It was being sold by local dairies earlier in bottles and later in pouches. But even in Gujarat, you had multiple brands going around. Baroda Dairy would sell it as Sugam milk, Vasudhara by the Valsad Dairy, Sagar by Mehsana, Banas by Banaskantha, and so on. Sabar by Sabarkantha and so on. Now, when you're looking at liquid milk, the economics of liquid milk is quick turnaround and local sale, as local as possible. So it is what Gujarat is doing actually is they're using the Gujarat milk to conquer the markets or to make their presence, but eventually they're actually procuring from local areas. They're not transporting milk over long distances once they have stabilized an operation in a given state. So you would see that the Kheda Union has gone and set up a processing plant somewhere in Varanasi. I mean, I might be wrong about the names, but several unions have gone and set up plants across multiple states. And they're doing local procurement. Local procurement, I'm told that they're paying fairly good price, but local procurement is non-member procurement. So one problem with this non-member procurement is that there is no accountability, and cooperatives is all about accountability. See, the reason why it is important for cooperatives to be there is because it has to be a monopoly at the village level. And any monopoly is not good unless it is accountable. So that is a nuanced argument that one is making about non-competition at the procurement level at the primary level.
So are you saying that, that initially Amul might offer a higher price, win away the farmers from Nandini, and then, give them a lower price? Will that happen?
I don't know whether they will give a lower price, but certainly the farmers will not get the benefit of the bonus, which Nandini would give at the end of the year. I guess that's the only thing. But I find that you might then argue that Amul might be even more efficient and their upfront price might be better than Nandini's upfront price plus bonus. That argument can always be made if there is efficiency and there is.
But at the moment, it doesn't seem that Amul is more efficient because in Delhi, for example, where I operate from, we find that toned milk in the packaged form sells for 54 rupees a liter, whereas in Karnataka, toned milk of Nandini sells for 40 rupees. So there's a big gap. And even with the 6 rupees which the state government gives, the gap remains. So Nandini obviously is much more efficient. And I'm also told that in the Bengaluru area, about 90% of the milk that it procures comes from within a radius of 200 kilometers. So it's obviously very strong competitively positioned, and it can take on Amul, unless, of course, the playing field is tilted in favor of Amul by political reasons.
Sure. Sure. I mean, I think given the state subsidy and given that it is local, it certainly can take on Amul. I think the argument is not that Amul is directly coming into the local area, but argument is about how are you looking at how the vehicle from behind is approaching you in the rearview mirror, and how fast is it going to overtake you. I think an early warning system for Nandini is good enough for them to think about. See, please remember that their competitive advantage is in selling milk locally, right? But if the milk production and productivity increases, where is Nandini's market? Obviously, that also will go out of the state, right? And that's where the real competition comes between Amul and Nandini. Locally, I think with the state government protection and so on, it should be fine. See, the risk of Amul is not so much for Nandini, but it is much more for other weaker states. And obviously, there the efficiency argument goes on. And other weaker
Like,
states.
for example, Tamil Nadu, you mean, where, there's a talk of Amul posing a threat to Arvind?
Yeah, Arvind has not been so successful compared to Nandini, so therefore it's a greater threat to Tamil Nadu than to.
I would say that because of Nandini's competitive advantages, he should actually expand the market and go into areas like Delhi, where he can, I'm sure, give a run for its money to Amul.
Well, there is a problem. I mean, we need to look at how deep Nandini's pockets are and whether Nandini is in a position to set up processing plants near about Delhi and procure milk near about Delhi. And I think in any case, I don't think it's a healthy trend for cooperatives to compete with other cooperatives in procurement particularly, because ultimately both are trying to maximize the value of the consumer rupee to the producer. Right. So what is the point in going and competing with somebody else who's actually doing a fairly decent job of it? I think they are better off competing with the private sector, where by the way, because the cooperatives set the benchmarks, even in the private sector, the consumer rupee significant amount goes back to the producer. This is one sector where possibly 60 to 70% of the consumer rupee goes to the producer, which is the best in agriculture.
So instead of competing, would you suggest that Amul and Nandini should cooperate and expand procurement and milk production within the state itself?
See, actually, the original model involved that. You know what the original model was that each cooperative would procure the milk, and there would be coordination on surpluses. So there are two things that are happening there. One is what do you do with surpluses? And the classical view of surpluses was convert that into products, skim milk powder and butter and associated products. And then depending on your depth of pockets and the spread of the market, you go and compete in the market. And also there was a national milk grid, which was operated by the National Cooperative Dairy Federation of India, where all the cooperatives or cooperative federations were there, which coordinated between the federations, looked at surpluses to coordinate between defense supplies to defense forces, and looking at reconstitution of milk, where is SMP available, where are we running short, and the lean and flush balancing, right? That was the broad agreement. And also it was quite possible, and this has happened in the past, that if you have excess capacity, let's say you have excess capacity of making cheese and you don't have adequate raw material, you let out the capacity and make the cheese of some other brand in your plant, including the private sector. So this has been happening. I mean, that actually had to be enhanced rather than Amul coming and trying to sell milk or in other areas. I think if there is an existing cooperative which is procuring milk, we just need to see how Amul can use that brand to sell its more of its products and use those capacities to leverage, so that the cooperative is still accountable for the milk procurement to its own farmers. That broadly is the logic.
Now, economic aside, I'm sure there's a lot of politics in cooperatives, and one of the reasons why the opposition raised the red flag was because it thinks that the ruling BJP is seeing cooperatives as a tool for political mobilization, which is why, for example, a separate Ministry of Cooperation was carved out in 2021, and it was invested in Amit Shah, who is the Home Minister. And then this is followed by the Multi-State Cooperatives Amendment Act, where the central government will have control, where it will appoint 3 administrators and also an election conducting authority. So there's a lot of politics, and the BJP is very much invested in the rural economy, and it has said that it wants to set up a cooperative in every panchayat. So this is a way in which you can dispense patronage, isn't it?
Well, very much. I mean, we should not complain that cooperatives are politicized, because the nature of governance in cooperatives is based on democratic control. And politicians are the ones who crack the code of how to master the elections of a one person, one vote structure. Irrespective of the fact that it's an economic organization, it is by structure a political organization, whether we like it or not. It is designed as a political organization. That's the contradiction in the cooperative principles. So somebody who's mastered the political game will master the cooperatives very easy. And traditionally, you would see it's not just the BJP now. Of course, it's the BJP now, but it's always been that every time the party in governance change in the state government, they would appoint administrators to the cooperatives and then conduct fresh elections, right? So that they could put their people in. So it is the only the issue with the BJP is and the current dispensation is that its orientation towards centralization is what is much more problematic than just the takeover of cooperatives by politics. I think the centralization of one nation, one everything is something that is it's a little worrisome for organizations which are supposed to be decentralized and locally accountable. That's the basic thing. And of course, there's a lot of patronage dispensation that happens. You increase the milk prices, transport contracts, a whole lot of patronage is there in this.
Mm-hmm. But of course, it's not business as usual, because we find that the BJP has invested a lot in the rural economy. For example, you have this Gokul mission, the promotion of indigenous breeds, and now you find that they want to set up a cooperative in every panchayat. Then, of course, the restraint on culling of animals. So I think there's a much more than meets the eye.
There is much more than meets the eye, but I'm not sure some of these are very economically sound decisions. Particularly on the focus on indigenous breeds. Unless these indigenous exotic breeds are productive and have a very niche market and a large niche market, you can go into the organics and so on. I don't think we have that sort of a huge market. So,
no, Professor, what I was saying is that cooperatives have always been used for political mobilization.
That's true.
But what we are seeing now is that they are being used as a tool for ideological promotion.
That's true. No, but see, in the long run, it might be a little bit of a self goal, Vivian. Why do I say that? See, with great difficulty, there is a lot of science and technology that has been invested into converting our dairying into an industrial grade dairying, right? There's a lot of breed improvement, artificial insemination, sexing of semen, a whole lot of things, which ensures that and we have moved from a buffalo economy towards a cow economy. Now with this,
Sorry, it's the other way around. We have moved from a cow economy to buffalo economy.
Now we are moving backwards from an economic sense. So this one and the restriction on culling is going to make dairying much more unattractive, right? So at scale, it is not going to work. I mean, that economics is not going to work. I mean, we've become it might turn out to be like what we did with our oilseeds economy. We were a completely self-sufficient oilseeds economy, and we started importing palm oil. I think we will go that direction, because if we can't have cows and we can't cull them, then we start importing milk. That's the easiest way of maintaining the economic viability because there is nutrition, there's protein, there's a requirement, and of course, milk is sentimentally an important food in everybody's life, right? So I think long term, I don't think anybody's thought through the very a 20-year impact of all these policies.
But this government also is looking at the export market. In fact, it has set up a multi-state cooperative. I mean, it has set up a export-oriented cooperative with Amul contributing, I think, about 500 crore rupees to look at export markets, particularly in milk. And while India is the largest producer of milk, it's not been the most efficient. And when I was talking to a dairy expert, he was saying that efficiency is not our priority. Our main priority is livelihood security. Dairy industry is seen as a creator of employment and provider of jobs rather than as an export industry. But that might have to change over a period of time, especially also because of pressure from countries like Australia and New Zealand to open up our markets.
So, I mean, there you need to look at the dairying market in three layers, Vivian. One is that we already have industrial grade farms in Gujarat, in Punjab, in Haryana, wherein you have contactless milk, right from a milking parlor at the farm level to, that milk going into a insulated receptacle at the cooperative society level through using insulated tankers to transport it to the dairying once a day. So you're cutting down on transport costs significantly. And that has good phytosanitary standards and so on, and could be export oriented. That's one upper layer. And I don't think we have such a large export market. I think, if you are able to consolidate some of these farms and create that large number of these 50 cattle head farms, that's an upper layer that still can open up the export markets as we grow. Second is a large mass Indian market, which is the middle market. The third market, which Amul has moved away from, is procuring milk of half liter, 1 liter from very, very small farmers, because their economics are not working out for that. And therefore, NDDB itself has been setting up new generation cooperatives in areas which are shadows of the old cooperatives. So we need to look at it from three layers, and I think it's an interesting play. But that part of the market can be managed because we could be about livelihoods, but we still could have a small niche segment which will export. Because please remember, the European market and the Australian market cannot be as big as the Indian market. So it's only 5%, 10% of our milk production that can go there. It cannot be 80% of our milk production goes there, right? So that's manageable. What is worrying is the indigenization and the culling, policy, which makes it difficult.
So one final question. While India is a big market, there is scope for expansion. But for that expansion to happen, prices must come down. Our industry must become much more efficient. Okay. Now, how can that happen? Because how can the cooperatives make that possible? On the one hand, they'll have to compete with the private dairies, which are very efficient. How can they consolidate themselves and bring down the cost of production? Have you done any study on that?
No. See, the cost of production at the farm level is, the way we manage our operation flat was through subsidies, very smart subsidies. In fact, this is a very, very subsidized program, and nobody talks about it because artificial insemination was free, medical, checkup, veterinary root services were free for a long time, right? And there was a subsidy in the setting up of milk plants, and Amul also greatly benefited from the money of the operation plant. There is, I don't think there is on price competitiveness, I don't think there is a big issue. What you're talking about efficiency is much more about the technology after the milk is procured. How efficiently can we do that? And I think we've significantly invested in that technology, and it's a moving target. Depending on the state of development of each state and its dairying, the technology has been there. Bulk milk coolers, milking machines, setting up of plants, a whole lot of mechanization. it's been happening. I don't think there is a big worry on the costs. I think the cooperatives are better placed than the private sector in terms of how they've used the technology gradually and how they've upped it. The private sector does come in with a lot of technology, but they are also into very niche value-added products. I think the cooperative sector has significant headroom if they want to increase their prices.
So are you saying that this price, for example, of 54 rupees in Delhi for toned milk, I would imagine that that is quite beyond the reach of a large number of people. So do you think that there's scope for reducing the prices, or do you think that the income for people should rise so that milk becomes more affordable to them?
So this is a tough conundrum. If 54 rupees is leading to 80% price to a producer, I as a person who has looked at pharma organizations in the past would say that's fine. There must be, and if you think that that's contributing to a significant increase in price for essential nutrition requirements of the poor in the urban areas, we need to find a smarter way of cross-subsidizing that. There is no reason why, for instance, I should pay only 40 rupees or 42 rupees in Bangalore city to consume milk. I should be paying possibly 55 or 58 rupees, which is what the Delhi guys are paying. So we need to find mechanisms of cross-subsidizing this, which could happen through midday meal, which could happen through some of these targeted development of nutrition and provision of milk. But I think we should allow the prices to find their own equilibrium in the market. In fact, that's what has been the case with the milk all throughout. I mean, this is one success example of the agriculture sector where we have kept it right from the beginning market facing, and we have used subsidies in a very, very smart way that it doesn't appear like a subsidy whenever we have given a subsidy.
And finally, can I just sum up by saying that, you are not in favor of cooperatives undercutting each other on procurement, but you are in favor of them competing in the product market?
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm also not in favor of consolidation of cooperatives and small cooperatives becoming multi-state because of reasons of accountability. I mean, if you are a 4-tier cooperative, what if, in fact, in Amul, the primary milk producer in Kheda district has zero say in what happens in the federation and how the federation is going and opening this thing. And because it's so indirect that it then becomes easy for capture. So centralization is bad.
That's a very nice point you have made. And on that note, Professor Sriram, thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivian.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.